welcome back. And the time is just gone 5 minutes past 8 is we kick off this morning taking a look at the sentencing of Julius Malema. And we're going straight now to be joined by attorney at law. We're talking with attorney Yousha Tayob. As we await Yousha on screen, Yousha, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. His picture is up there, and he has actually moved away. But I think what is important to understand, and while we are waiting for Yousha to actually join us, is to try and unpack what has been taking place as far as the matter is concerned, and also as far as the ruling that was made yesterday, the sentencing of 5 years in prison. Now, clearly, many questions have been raised. I know there was some talk about bail, and also from a legal perspective, what happens when a person is sentenced? Are they granted leave to appeal? At the same time, I see attorney at law Yousha Tayob is back on screen with us. Yousha, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you and welcome.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and the listeners, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Yousha, obviously there are many discussion points as far as the sentencing of Julius Malema goes. And I think from a legal perspective, just to try and unpack and understand what some of these issues are. Now, we know that he was sentenced to on various counts, one of them being 5 years in prison, and there were others where he was fines of 2,000 Rand, 6 months in prison, all of this taking place yesterday. I'm not too sure at this point in time because, Julius Malema obviously responded by saying that this is racially motivated. But the key issue here was the pointing of the gun in public. And let's just talk just briefly about the criminality and also in terms of your reading of the sentence and the judgment that was handed down.
Jazakallah. So you will recall that there were 5 charges, and there's been a finding. Well, he's been convicted on all 5 of those charges. In law, you have to finality before you can appeal or deal with the matter any further. So, on the 5 charges, the worst of which is the unlawful possession of the firearm. He's been given 5 years. On the unlawful possession of ammunition, 2 years. And then on the so-called lesser charges, which is reckless and of a weapon, failing to take precautions, each of those he's been fined 20,000 Rand, alternatively 6 months imprisonment. And all of the imprisonment sentences have been declared.
Yeah. Well, I think we have lost Yousha Tayob for some reason or the other. Hopefully, we are able to get back to him very shortly. We know that they
Are
have.
you there?
Okay, there we go. Sorry, Yousha, we lost you there for a
Sorry,
second.
I'm not sure where you lost me. So in essence, he was charged on 5 counts. It was the unlawful possession of a firearm, the unlawful possession of ammunition, and then the so-called lesser charges, which was reckless endangerment and public discharge of a weapon and failing to take precautions. He's been found guilty on all 5 counts. That was some time ago, and sentencing took place over the last 2 days. So he now, at the time, immediately after sentencing, applied for leave to appeal against both the conviction and the sentence. You have to wait for the sentence to be pronounced. You have to wait for the sentence to be pronounced in order to appeal. He's been granted leave to appeal on the conviction, which essentially the court agreed that another court, a higher court, because remember he was prosecuted in the magistrate's court, so the High Court may well impose a lesser sentence than 5 years. There's already been a detraction from the minimum sentencing requirements, reduced to 5 years. And so the position at this stage is that he's not been granted leave to appeal on the convictions, which is the merits of the charges against him. And what he will do there is petition the High that decision, because magistrate will have
Well, we certainly seem to be having somewhat of a problem, and I'm sure it has got to do with signal, possibly bandwidth as well. We will ask.
Because of that, he will now petition the High Court in order to get leave to appeal. And if he's not granted that, he may well petition the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. So those appeals will run concurrently, both in respect of the conviction and the sentence. Yeah.
Yes, Yusha, I think let's just look at it purely from a legal perspective and the process to follow, because I think many of us who are non-legal people, obviously would have expected not an immediate response, in terms of applying for leave to appeal against the sentence. Just looking at it from a legal process perspective, I mean, how does the law actually interpret an immediate application for a leave to appeal?
No, so it's a very common practice. I mean, when you're listening to the judgment, you've already made a call in regard to the finding on the conviction, because remember that was done some time ago. And when you're arguing the sentence, as you will have noted from his legal counsel, that they quoted a number of legal cases in which the sentence was substantially less for unlawful possession of firearm and an ammunition than the 5 years given by the magistrate. So, in practice, his legal team already knew the reasons for the judgment and the conviction, and they already knew the basis on which they were going to appeal. And considering that he has a seasoned advocate who's dealt with criminal matters extensively, they would have been prepared with the case law, as you saw in his argument, with the grounds on which they intended to appeal. So it's not. Sometimes it happens that you have 15 days within which to appeal, and sometimes you can do it immediately. So the issue really is you kind of know, what you want to say and what you want to do and why you believe the magistrate is wrong immediately, because you've got to, I mean, his advocate is a seriously trained legal mind, and he would have been ready to argue the leave to appeal immediately. There's nothing peculiar about that at all.
Right. Yusha, the fact that, the argument was, the sentence, according to the defense, was quite harsh. And obviously, they, as you've mentioned, they obviously quoted, previous cases where people who were found guilty received lesser sentences. But what we also saw is the judge or the magistrate explained at length as to why this sentence was Julius Malema, considering the profile of the person. And then there was just so much history and so much background. And she painted a picture to try and justify why a harsher sentence, compared to people who were sentenced on similar charges previously.
Yeah, look, I mean, she's certainly taken his profile into account, and that he's such a public figure. And one of the objectives of sentencing is to send out a message to the public, that the rule of law will not be compromised, and obviously to try and have the public be very aware of the seriousness of the nature of these offenses. So we kind of all have to accept the consequences of our social political standing, and because he's such a public figure, she made quite a meal of that. Yes, that's correct. That's quite correct.
Yes, Yusha. Now I know there was some talk of bail, and I couldn't quite understand, and I couldn't fathom, what they were talking about with regard to bail. Perhaps, Jika, you can just try and explain, what the whole question and the argument surrounding bail that was taking place as well.
Yeah. So look, as I understand it, when he was initially arrested, he was released on what is called a warning. So he didn't physically pay any amount that we normally do in most matters, where you pay a bail amount to secure your attendance at trial. So he was released on warning when the initial charges were brought, and he remained out in public on the basis that he had been granted what is normally known as bail, but he was released on a warning to continue to appear. He proved not to be the flight risk. He attended at his trial, and the trial went through. And now, because he's been convicted and now sentenced, that bail condition, that bail that was granted to him, has to be renewed. Because remember, at the time that he was charged, he was innocent until proven guilty. His personal factual circumstances changed to being a convicted criminal. And so, what then has to happen, and what we normally do, and what was done in this matter, is that an application was made for him to continue to be released on bail on account of the fact that he intended to appeal both the conviction and the sentence. And in essence, the court has to renew the conditions under which he is to be released. In simple terms, when you're charged innocent until proven guilty, you have to satisfy the court that you're not a flight risk and that you will stand your trial, and the court can impose conditions on that, including payment amounts, seizure of passports, reporting to police station, those kind of conditions. But when you're a convicted criminal, you're now in a substantially more serious place, in the sense that the flight risk may well become real on account of the fact that you've been. So you've essentially got to renew to the court that you will not be a flight risk, that you will stand your appeal and prosecute the matter to its end. So, in essence, the issue really was, please extend that he be released on bail and or other conditions, on the basis that the appeal is still pending.
Yes, Yusha, we're going to go for a quick ad break, and I just want to engage just to get just further understanding on one or two other matters. So we'll put you on hold,
Sure,
and we're going to go
sure,
for an ad break.
sure.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When disaster strikes, families lose everything in an instant. Homes destroyed, communities displaced, hope fades into uncertainty. Our Global Emergency Fund ensures we respond without delay, delivering food, water, shelter, and healthcare to families in need. To support our Global Emergency Fund, visit islamicrelief.org.za.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Golf for a Cause. Join us for African Muslims Agency's inaugural Charity Golf Day in Johannesburg on Sunday, 19th April at the pristine Royal Johannesburg Golf. Tee off for hope as we raise funds for the Iman School of Excellence based in Johannesburg South, providing world-class education in an impoverished community. Whether you're a beginner or pro, everyone is welcome to join our golfing journey in service of humanity. Great sponsorship opportunities available for businesses and 1,500 Rand per player. Contact the AMA Houghton office for more information.
Rejuvenating media day by day.
Well, the time is just gone 20 minutes past 8 as we continue our discussion this morning with attorney at law Yousha Tayob. talking about the sentencing of Julius Malema and the leave to appeal. Yousha, just to continue, and we know as far as appeal is concerned, it is quite a process. But just in terms of the consequences of the sentencing of Julius Malema, could have far-reaching consequences both from a legal perspective and also from a political perspective, because he is a parliamentarian, and we have learned that should he be convicted, and obviously the appeal court or the higher court obviously views this thing differently, and he is sentenced, he won't be able to serve in parliament. But in the interim, because this is a process that will take some time, sometimes it can take up to 2-3 years even, it can be basically dragged on. And just to look at his personal situation, is he still eligible to serve as a parliamentarian at this point in time? Can he continue with his day-to-day work, until this matter gets to the appeal court or the higher court?
Yeah, in essence, that position is not yet compromised because remember, you don't have a final decision. The convicted criminal aspect does bar him from being a parliamentarian, a minister. But that process, if you take it to the firstly to the higher court, having jurisdiction, and if unsuccessful there to the appeal court in Bloemfontein, is at least a 3-4 year process. So yeah, he's not affected now because there isn't a final judgment, so to speak, in regard to his conviction and sentence as they are appealing it.
Yes, and just I think personally, looking at someone who is convicted, in terms of, are there any restrictions on what you can say, what you can't say? Can you comment on the merit of a case? Because yesterday we seen Julius Malema obviously respond as well, criticizing the magistrate, saying the magistrate is associated with the likes of AfriForum, that it actually brought up the case as well. Is he still free to make comments?
Look, we have freedom of speech with limitations. I mean, the Constitution guarantees it. So he's entitled to say what he wants, and obviously, she's entitled to defend herself. In essence, if he can prove that association, it could be quite damning in regard to the outcome. But the more pertinent one that I heard circulated yesterday was that accused number 2, who was his bodyguard, was aware of the contents of the judgment before it had been delivered, and so was the prosecutor. So that's certainly an irregularity that can be challenged. But insofar as him saying what he wants to say, we all have the freedom of speech in our within limitation. But he's, considering his public profile, and his supporters, he must have some substantive evidence to establish it. So he would being responsible, I hope. So he may or may not have it, and if there's an irregularity in the proceedings that affects the color of her judgment, it certainly is something that can be taken on review, and certainly something that can be reported to the authorities. So, yes, in essence, he has freedom of speech, and she has the freedom to defend herself and or interdict him from doing so, and or taking legal action against him if she believes that the comments are unfair, unwarranted, and capable of suing him for what he's saying. So, yes, we all have it, and like it's being tested all the time. Freedom of speech.
Yes, Yousha, and just finally, just in terms of how relevant is the sentencing and this outcome, considering that, South Africa, we know the high levels of corruption and many other criminal activities that we know that, some parliamentarians, high profile people in government that have been involved in terms of corruption, and just how relevant is this in terms of setting some sort of precedent in a South African political, in the South African political landscape and the political dynamics that are playing out?
I don't know. It's so endemic, and nothing seems to be being done about it. There's commission after commission, but we're not seeing the prosecutions as we should be seeing them. And this corruption has resulted in the complete failure of all infrastructure. So ultimately, the one thought that came to me yesterday after having heard it, and in essence, Julius Malema not going to prison after exhausting all the process, is that even if it were all to happen, we have in our system what is called a presidential pardon, and so that may well happen at the end of this matter if all the legal processes are exhausted. I'm not sure, and it's difficult to line allegations of corruption without the evidence. But in essence, I mean, ultimately, I don't, even if he exhausts all the processes and is found to still be guilty of on all these charges and the sentence is imposed, I doubt very much that someone of his caliber will actually go to jail. I mean, we saw something similar with President Zuma. I doubt he'll see jail time, because I think that if that were to happen, there may well be so much trouble in the country, that it won't be worth the effort, and I think a presidential pardon may well be issued to him. But I don't know that that will be as a result of corruption. I think that may well be because this country may well erupt if he's. I mean, he's a substantial political figure in this country with a substantial following. So I think they may well be consequences that ensure that he doesn't actually go to imprisonment.
Well, Yousha, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, and also for taking time out with us at Salam Media this morning for unpacking the case of Julius Malema. All the best to you. Have yourself a wonderful Jummah as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ameen.
Attorney at law, Yousha Tayob, unpacking the Malema Firearm case and also the whole question surrounding the leave to appeal. We're going to go for a break. We come back, we'll be joined by Dr. Jared Sachs.
Africa Muslim Agency's Golf Day on the 19th of April, literally a few days away. We are here ready to welcome you to have a day of fun-filled activities together with our sponsors, well-wishers, all for the good cause of education. Come through to the Royal Johannesburg Golf Course and participate in this amazing initiative.